So here is the resurrection. Now, this transformation, the word used here is the word for change. It's a metamorphosis, if you please. This transformation is a change. Now, if this change was taking place over a 40-year period, it would simply mean that the saints were going through this change throughout their duration, and at the consummation of it, the change would be complete. That means this is an already but not yet context. They could look at the beginning of when that change started through the death of Christ and their initiation into the gospel. But here, when Paul writes somewhere in the mid to late 50s for 2 Corinthians, they are still undergoing the change, so it hasn't been completed. And again, I remind you, it was a change from a ministration of death to a ministration of life. But then, therefore, they were still looking forward to the change because the change was not complete. So they could therefore, this was an already but not yet, they would therefore be looking for what? For the consummation of the change, for the completed change, when they could say that transformation is complete and that old covenant body, that old ministration of death has completely passed away. It has resolved into and transformed into the completion of that new covenant body, which, as we said, was to be established in judgment in a previous video. But that tells you that there was a future to the change. There was a future to the consummation, and that change was taking place with living saints. Now, my question is this. For those who look in 1 Corinthians 15, where the Bible talks about the dead shall be raised incorruptible, the living shall be changed. Now, that is a future in that text. But why is that change different from the change in 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 18? How many changes were the disciples going through? And did the saints have to die physically in order for this change in 2 Corinthians to take place? I suggest they did not. I suggest this is the same change that is mentioned in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. It was a change that was being accomplished by the Spirit. Now let's ask ourselves this question. Was the Holy Spirit accomplishing resurrection in the first century from the time between Jesus' death and the events of Pentecost all the way down to 70 AD? I don't think anyone would disagree with that, especially those who are preterists understand that it was the Holy Spirit through which resurrection was being accomplished. That's Romans chapter 8 and verse 11, 10 and 11, by the way. He says, and if Christ is in you, the body is dead. But if the spirit of him who raised up Christ from the dead dwells in you, then God shall also make alive your mortal bodies by his Spirit that dwells in you. So it's the Holy Spirit that was going to bring about resurrection. Also in 2 Corinthians 5, by the way, when Paul talks about the resurrection, he says, for we who are in this tent groan, being burdened, not because we want to be unclothed, but further clothed, that mortality might be swallowed up of life. Now he who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who has also given us the Spirit as a guarantee. So it's the Spirit that was accomplishing resurrection, going from death to life. We've seen the ministration of death to the ministration of righteousness. We saw where it was not completed, because even as Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, which is beyond Pentecost, they were yet hoping and expecting the change to be consummated. Therefore, they were pointing to the change. Why? Again, since it's all being accomplished through the Spirit, was that not the change that was taking place in 1 Corinthians 15? They did not have to die in order for this change to be consummated. They did not have to go to the grave physically in order for them to experience that resurrection of which the Bible speaks here. And therefore, it shows that the process of change from death to life for New Testament saints, which was being completed by the Spirit, was not accomplished in 30 AD, was not completed in even the mid-50s, but had to go on to its completion in 70 AD. And that's what the saints were looking for. That's what they were hoping for, the consummated change. And that's the emphasis of 1 Corinthians chapter 15. It is the consummation of the change that was already in progress and in process during the time of the interim period between 30 to 70 AD. Well, that's our little from the clipboard message for you today. I hope that you were able to gain something from it. This is a very intriguing study. I want to encourage you to look more into it or look further into it. There's a lot more to it, but I'm cutting some things out because I just simply can't delve into it, and I don't want to make this a long video. So with that, I am going to stop talking right now after I suggest to you to subscribe to our videos, to our channel. We want you to leave your comments and your thoughts about what we shared with you today. If we raise some questions, if we have encouraged you to study it further, please leave those comments, ask those questions. I'll be happy to address them as best and as quickly as I possibly can. Also, I want to encourage you to visit us at www.allthingsfulfilled.com. And you'll find more information on this subject as well as many other subjects that relate to the end time. And until next time, I'm William Bell, saying have a very pleasant day.